Welcome everybody. This is the DVMUG Zoom meeting, and this is a special presentation with somebody you all know very well from the last 2 years. This is Gary from MacMost. Welcome, Gary.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me again. And I got a presentation today that I think just about everybody can kind of appreciate, because it's definitely one of the things that I get asked a lot about. It's what do you do, when your drive is full? Either, your drive is full, or you want more space, or you just realize that you've got a lot of stuff on your hard drive and it's been years since you looked through it all, and you kind of want to clean it up, do a spring cleaning. And then you think about all the different ways you could approach it, and how can you find large files you don't need anymore. Maybe there's some junk that's been accumulated, over the years by using different apps and things like that. And yeah, there's a lot of places to look on your Mac for stuff. So I started compiling this. I actually did a video, and I wrote up a post about this. This is kind of an update to that, but I'll include a link at the end. I'll show you a link to that, which is good because you don't have to take notes. Like you may maybe use that as, listen to what I say, and then you can use that as kind of like, oh, here's all the things you talked about. Now let me go through these. So before I start showing you all the individual little locations where you can look to find things you don't need on your Mac, things you can clean up, I guess there are two basic rules when doing cleaning. And the first rule is that if you need to do a cleaning, if your drive is almost full, I realize there's nothing you could do about it right now, but you got to stick it in your head that your next Mac needs a bigger drive. I always say that I've never had anybody come to me and say, well, I bought a Mac a couple of years ago, and mistake I made was I got too big of a hard drive. Nobody says that. But people say I got too small of a hard drive all the time. It's one of the most common complaints. So you always have to think about when you buy a new Mac, it's like, oh, I'm using 200 gigs now. Oh, I'll get the 256 gig drive. That should be fine. No, that's not fine. If you're using 200 gigs now, you have to think that you're going to be using more. You're going to be taking more photos, more videos. You're going to be creating more things on your Mac and all of that. So you want to always think about what you need, and go up to think about what you might need in the future. And then whatever that is, double it. And that's the size hard drive you should get. So if you're running into a problem now with hard drive size, think about, hey, next year when I buy a new Mac, or 3 years from now when I buy a new Mac, I do need to get a larger hard drive. File that away. Rule 2 is, while you're going through and finding things and doing things to clean up your drive, don't just clean them up and you're done with it. You have to clean them up and also learn at the same time. You have to learn from your past mistakes. So for instance, if we're looking here and you find that you've got a bunch of stuff in your downloads folder because you download things and you just download them to read something or view a video or install an app, and you leave your downloads folder alone, and then now notice you have 100 gigs worth of stuff in your downloads folder. Great that you figured that out, but after you clean out your downloads folder, now you have to remember, okay, I need to change how I deal with the downloads folder because this has been a problem. When I download something, do what I'm going to do with it and then get rid of it. So don't repeat the same problem and end up in the same place a year from now with a big downloads folder. Now, that said, let's look at how we can start cleaning out our Macs. Fortunately, in macOS Big Sur and Monterey, particularly in Monterey, there is a great tool built into your Mac for doing a lot of things. About 80% of what I'm going to talk about, you can use this tool for. If you go to About This Mac, and then you go to Storage here at the top, and then click Manage, you get to this kind of hidden app, an app that's on your Mac, but there's no other way to access it by that. There's not an official name for this as far as I can tell. I call it the Storage Manager. And it is a really complex, detailed app that does lots of different things. You'll be surprised at how many different things I show you go on inside of this kind of hidden app. And this is what we'll use to clean out a lot of stuff. It'll make it a lot easier to do. A lot of the stuff I'm going to show you, I could have showed you the same stuff 3 years ago, but I'd be showing you in the Finder, here's the folder you go to, you look in the folder, these are the files, and you can delete them. Now, a lot of times I didn't have to show you that anymore because I could just show you here. So for instance, let's start with podcasts. So if I go to the podcast app here, and it occurs to me, hey, my drive's almost full. Podcasts take up a lot of space, right? They're big audio files, sometimes video files. I can look in my podcast app, and I could see under library here, I can see under latest episodes. Oh, there's a whole bunch of episodes. Look at these for like an hour, 30 minutes and all that. I bet you some of these files are pretty big. And I have all of these on my Mac right now. So it'd be great to be able to clean those out. You could go inside the podcast app here, and I could, here's an MP4 podcast. I could click here, and I could say, let's see. Well, this one actually isn't downloaded. Let's find one. There it is. There's one that's downloaded. I could say remove download. But there's a lot of them, right? If you subscribe to podcasts, there's going to be a lot. So the great thing is you don't need to use the podcast app for this because it's right here inside this special storage manager. There's podcasts. It tells me there's 6.76 gigs of stuff. So my idea that maybe podcasts are taking up a lot of space, that's true. If I select this, it actually shows me a list of all the podcasts. These are the ones that are stored locally. And I can sort them by name, but I can also sort them by size right here. And by sorting by size with the largest at the top, I can really quickly see, well, there's a bunch there to take up a lot of space and maybe not worry so much about these small ones here at the bottom. I can go through and I could select one and I could click the delete button here, or I could control click on it and delete. I could also select multiple ones, shift click, select multiple ones and delete all of them. I can even do Command A and delete all of them. Great thing about podcasts is, podcasts are things you download. You can easily re-download these. If you look at this and say, well, look at this one. I may need this one. I haven't viewed this one yet. Maybe I'll get to it next week. You know what? You don't have to worry about it. You can delete it, and you can always go back to that podcast, find that episode and say download now. So you can select all of these, delete these, and save 6.76 gigs. And that's an example of how this, storage manager, as I call it, app works. There are two other very similar places I'm going to show you right away. One is the TV app. And the TV app, I've got almost nothing. Well, nothing here. 5.8 megs is nothing really. But if I had some TV shows downloaded or movies downloaded, it would show me here. This is my demo account, so I don't. But let's say I it's a MacBook and I downloaded a couple movies from Apple to watch on the plane. I purchased a couple things and I watched them, but it never occurred to me that I should remove them from my Mac. You would see them listed here and probably with huge sizes. The great thing about purchasing things from Apple, like movies and TV shows, is you can always re-download them. So even if it's your favorite movie, if you're trying to save space right now, you could select it just like I was doing in podcasts, select that one item and then click delete and get rid of it, clear off that space now, knowing you could always come back and download it again later. Another place for this is the Books app. So the Books app, it's the same kind of thing. You've got books you purchased from Apple, which you can always download again. And you also have books that you've synced over iCloud. So they're stored in iCloud. And if they're local, if they're stored locally, you'll see them here with the size. I just have two little, free textbooks that are here. But some books are actually really big. Some books with lots of illustrations and things like that, like college textbooks, are huge. So you could see those and you could clear them out here. So you've cleaned out podcasts, TV, and books just by using this. And that already could save you a ton of space. So that's the first place that I would look. Any questions? Well, I got a sip of water. Okay.
Yes. Is there any place like that in Catalina?
I mean, if there is, it's the same place. I can't remember the order at which they built this up. This little storage manager started off, a little simpler with less things in it, less functionality. I think it's around in Catalina, but I don't think it has as much functionality as it does in Monterey. So check that out. But you could always, like I showed, you can go to the TV app. I'm trying to think now, when was the iTunes move? I guess Catalina. So you can go to the TV app and you can clear things out in the TV app directly. It's just easier to do with this. Another space here is, and this is a really common thing, GarageBand. The app GarageBand is notorious for taking up a lot of space. It has to. It has a huge library of instruments and music loops. And without that library, it's not really worth much, right? If you're going to play around and make a song, you need to have a massive amount of loops to choose from, be able to think of styles and genres and put things in there. So it takes up a lot of space in your drive. If you're using GarageBand, then great. Then you don't want to get rid of anything with GarageBand. And if you're not using it, you probably never downloaded it or any of that stuff. But there are a lot of people that like to play around with GarageBand and maybe downloaded it, played around with it. It was fun, but they're not using it right now. And if you're suffering from a lack of storage, you may want to kind of clear that off for now, knowing you could always download GarageBand again. Now, just getting rid of the GarageBand app doesn't do much because most of the stuff is stored in the library folder. And you could actually look in the library folder. And let me give you an example here of like, if I go into the Finder here and I go up to the top level. So I'll go up, I'll actually go to the computer level. There we go. On Macintosh hard drive, under library, there's audio, and there's Apple loops right here. And this is a huge file folder. It's almost 3 gigs right there of music loops, for instance. And then there's all these other things that GarageBand has. Fortunately, you don't have to worry about where these things are and what it belongs to GarageBand and what doesn't, because in the storage manager here, there's a section for music creation. And they simply have a quick button. If you're saying, hey, I don't need GarageBand right now, I do need space on my drive, then you could remove GarageBand sound library. And you can see it's going to clear up almost 16 gigs of space for me. And just like with the apps and TV and movies and all that stuff, you could download it again later if you need it. So it's not like you're throwing something away, you can never get it back. But it's a quick way to, well, first to see if that is what's taking up space in your drive, and second, to clear up that space very quickly. Likewise, there's also, if you use Xcode to program like I do, Xcode could take up a lot of space as well. Xcode usually fills the space with simulators and definitions for things. Like if you're an app developer, you probably have all these simulators for these different iPhones and iPads going back with a history and all that, and they're all huge. And you could look and find where those libraries are and stuff like that, but you don't need to, because you could look here under developer and you could find all sorts of stuff. And in this case, I don't actually have that kind of thing here, but I do have some caches when working in Xcode, and I could delete them right here without even launching Xcode or knowing how to remove those. So another handy place to look for something. Caches, especially from Xcode, they don't matter right now. If you need space, clear them off. They're not your projects. You can go back into your projects and you can recompile them, but you can save some space right now. And the only sacrifice would be the next time you use Xcode, rather than launching in 10 seconds, you know, it might take you a couple minutes to get in and start working with your app, because it has to rebuild those. So going further down the list, there's another one here called iOS files. So what are iOS files? Well, I personally don't and haven't used my Mac to back up my iPhone for years, because iCloud does that now. And even if iCloud didn't back up my iPhone, every piece of data that's on my iPhone is part of iCloud. And I don't have any stuff stored on my iPhone that's just on my iPhone. So for me, backing up my iPhone to my Mac, something I used to do almost daily at some point, you know, early on, is just a thing of the past. But it doesn't mean you don't still have an old copy of a backup floating around. I actually, to demonstrate, I backed up an iPhone to this demo account yesterday. So you can see there's something here and you can see how much space it takes up. But a more typical thing might be that you look under iOS files and you find out you've got a backup. It says like, you know, your iPhone 6 backed up in 2015 or something. And you're like, oh, I had no idea I still had this old backup taking 6 gigs of space on my drive. I've moved on to that. I'm 3 iPhones away from that one, and I certainly don't need this old backup. So you can select all these backups here and also delete them as well. Another example of something that, you know, a few years ago, you had to know where to look to actually get rid of it. And now it's handled by this manager here. But next, I want to actually show you some things that aren't handled by this. So let me hide that app and go into the Finder here. And with this Finder window, we're going to look at a couple of different places. So one thing is that, remember, in addition to backing up iPhones, we used to also update our iPhones through our Macs. Like you would download the update in iTunes and then apply it to your iPhone while it was connected. Well, I haven't done that in years either, but that doesn't mean that the last time I did it, it didn't keep around a backup of that update, and it's still sitting there. So you could find that if you go to your library. And the way to get to your library, that's your user library, not the top level library at the top of the drive, is you use the Go menu and you hold the Option key down, and then library appears here in the list and you can select it. Quick and easy way to get there. And you're not going to see this here, but there is a folder here. Well, you see the folder, it's called iTunes, and there's nothing really inside except this iPhone carrier support here. But if there had been an old update, I might see a file here that said something like iOS 9 update 3 or something like that. And then I would be horrified to find, this really old file sitting there taking up space on my drive. And in that case, I can just delete it. But hopefully yours looks like this and there's nothing in there. In addition, there's also another place I want to look here. At the top of your library, it's a place called Application Support. So let's go into Application Support. In there, you're going to see folders that have names either of applications you have installed or sometimes the company names. Sometimes they have names like this, Microsoft Edge. Sometimes they'll have names like com dot and then the name of the company and then the name of the app. Here's com.elgato.camerahub, right? And I have an app called Camera Hub that's from Elgato, and that's how they named the folder. Well, what I want to do here is I want to see if there's anything I can get rid of in application support, because application support is when you have an app and it needs to store data, not your document that you're creating or your project you're working on, but some settings, some extra bits of like graphics and things it's going to download and stuff like that. It's going to put them in application support. So it might leave stuff here that you don't need anymore. And I'll show you how to recognize what you don't need anymore. But first, I want to show you how you want to sort by size here. So I have this in list view and I've sorted by size. Now, that's not going to work unless also under, let's see, view, show view options or Command J, I didn't have this little calculate all sizes turned on. If I have it turned off, all the folders show up as blank for size. But I say calculate all sizes and it calculates the sizes of all these folders. It may actually take a few minutes to complete the calculation when you initially do it. But now I can sort by size and see that my mobile sync folder is by far the biggest. And I know why. It's got that backup, the exact backup we were looking at before. I don't need to clean that out from application support because the storage manager app is handling that for me. But if I continue down the list, I can see some other stuff. Now, I don't have anything too big here, but let's pretend these are 10 times the size. So here's Microsoft Edge. Why do I have Microsoft Edge? Well, because when Microsoft Edge came out, there was a lot of buzz about how good it was for Mac, and I wanted to give it a try. So I played around with it for a day or two. I don't use it though. I'm not even sure I still have it installed. I just wanted to see what all the buzz was about. Well, when I deleted the app, it left behind some stuff here. There's a whole bunch of stuff here from Microsoft Edge. If I've really deleted it and I'm not using it anymore, I don't need this extra stuff. I could throw this in the trash. I could delete it. Here's Zoom. I'm using Zoom right now. Obviously, I do not want to mess with the Zoom folder. So you don't want to mess with any app that you're using or think you might be using. Here's GIMP, right? The image editor. I don't use GIMP. I probably installed it for a little bit to show in a tutorial. I don't really need this folder. I uninstalled it, so I can get rid of that. And I would just look through this stuff. Sorted by size means that if I get to a certain point here, I mean, look, I'm all the way down here to Telestream, which makes ScreenFlow, the app I use to make my tutorials. I'm all the way down to 2 megs. At this point, stop. I'm not going to save any space getting rid of these little folders here. I was looking for the big ones, right? And now that I've gotten through the big ones, looked at the top ones, and maybe I've deleted this one and I've deleted this one. I've done a little bit of cleaning and I've done all I can do here. So any questions so far? Okay.
Yes, I've got one.
Yeah.
So I do back up my phone to my computer.
Okay.
And looking at my application support folder under
Mhm.
mobile sync backup, I see five folders there.
Okay.
All but one of them are large, multiple.
Yeah.
And some of them are pretty, and most of them are pretty old. Can I just delete the old ones?
Yeah. And notice it shows last accessed here. You know, so obviously if you see something that's like, oh, that's old, right? I don't need that anymore. And if, like, for instance, my iPhone 11 Pro Max, that's my demo phone, right? But let's pretend that's my actual like phone I'm using. If I saw a backup here for my iPhone 8, and I'm like, boy, I have in my iPhone 8 sitting in a drawer, or I've recycled it, then obviously you can get rid of that one.
So the ones that, so the latest backup doesn't depend on any of those older backups.
Right. No, not at all.
Okay.
Inside each of those backups is already kind of the, you know, when you do a new backup, it kind of updates that backup. So that's already inside that one. If it's a separate file, it's completely separate.
Thanks.
Yep.
You repeat the route from going from desktop to storage manager?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I'll quit out of this. And so you go to About This Mac, right there. Then you click on Storage, and then you click on Manage.
Thank you.
That's how I get there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the Finder here, and I want to show another location. So this is kind of this is an interesting one. You know, I love doing this research. About a month or two ago, I did all this research finding out where these files were hiding. You know, I looked all over the place to, you know, discussion groups and forums. And anytime somebody said, I found some files I didn't need here, I investigated it and tried to figure out what it was. And this one was kind of fascinating. So, you know how you've got Siri on your Mac, and you also have text to speech, right? You can have your Mac talk to you, and you could pick different voices. Some of those voices are actually huge files. Some of them are small, but some are huge. And it turns out that if you're like me and you're like, oh, there's a bunch of voices, I want them all, download them all. I want to choose. I want to hear what they all sound like. You could end up with some massive folders filled with this data. Now, to figure out what you've got, it's basically a two-step process. First, there's some folders to look in to know if this is even a problem. And if it is a problem, then you go somewhere completely different to actually change it. So to actually see if this is a problem, remember here, we are in the application support folder in the library, but we're going to go to a different place. I'm going to go all the way to the top level. At the top level on my hard drive, there's a library folder there too. That's a separate, that's your main library, as opposed to your user account library. And basically think of it this way. Anything at the main library is shared by all users. Anything in your user folder library, that's just for that one user. And, you know, it gets confusing, especially if you have one user account, so it doesn't really matter to you. But imagine if you and your spouse both have an account on the Mac, everything at the main level in this folder I'm at is shared. And it turns out voices, when you download voices, they're added here. So if we go into here, I'm actually going to go up one, instead of to library, I'm going to go to system, where there's yet another library folder called the system library. And in the system library, there are a couple of places here. There is one called speech. And if you find it right here, and I'm going to do Command I with it selected to see how big it is. So 1 gig. Okay, 1 gig's not huge, but it's not small either. The other place I'm going to look is assets V2. And this is a place where it stores, the system stores stuff it might need. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to do Command J to do the view options and calculate all sizes, and then sort by size with the largest at the top. And I'm going to look at the stuff at the top. Here's something that's 2 gigs, and I'm going to try to guess whether or not this has to do with speech. This has the word voice in it, probably. This says voice assets, probably. Okay, So I can see the top things here take up some space, and they have to do with voice. So I've determined that voices probably take up a lot of space on my drive. You might find you don't notice much of anything here that has to do with voices, and the speech folder is smaller. And then you could stop right there and say, voices are not an issue. But I'm going to say, for the sake of argument here, that voices are an issue. So how do I deal with the voices? Well, you don't do anything with the files in the Finder. Instead, you go to System Preferences. And there are actually several places you can find this, but I'm going to direct you to Accessibility. And then I'm going to look at Spoken Content. And at the top here, I'm going to look at these voices here under System Voice. See, when I select this, I can choose all these voices. These are all the voices I have installed on my Mac. And I can go to Customize here and get a different looking list with checkboxes next to each one of them. This is what I've installed. And if I want to uninstall them, I simply uncheck anything that's here. Now, what I have noticed is that things for Siri are huge. They're much more advanced than the old voices. So these things actually take up a lot of space. In this case, I have 4 different Siri voices. I may want to pick one and stick with it and remove the other 3 by unchecking them. And you can do that, of course. I can pick a Siri voice and then click play, and then I hear what the voice is, and I'm like, oh, that's the female voice, or oh, that's the male voice. So maybe I decide I'm going to stick with Siri voice 4, and I'm going to get rid of 1, 2, and 3. You may see some of these other voices and want to get rid of them. Maybe you downloaded at some point all of them because they're fun to play with. A lot of these are tiny. So, you might find, oh, I get rid of these, and you don't really save much space. But you can go through, and of course, if you have second languages, third languages on here, you may be using Siri voices there as well. So that's the way to get rid of those. And after you do that, that's all you can really do at that point to get rid of those voices. Don't mess with the files directly. That was just to find out, what you have going on. So that's an unusual one. I'm going to go back to the library folder, hold the Option key down, go there. So this is my user library folder. And another one here is called caches. Let's go into caches. So this is a lot of times when you read about, oh, clearing stuff off your Mac, caches is one of the first things people mention. And it's kind of, there's a mix of things here in caches. A lot of times people say, clear out your caches. That'll save you a ton of space. But in reality, it probably won't. Caches help speed up your Mac. If there's a cache for an app, like here's the caches for Adobe, that's probably, could be Photoshop having some stuff there for quick and easy access so that while I'm working in Photoshop, it's a little faster. If I were to delete that, I would save a little space now, but it's likely that as soon as I ran Photoshop again, that cache would be rebuilt and it would be using the same amount of space. So if I'm using Photoshop every day, deleting the Adobe cache is not going to help me. But what it will do is slow me down the first time I run Photoshop because it has to rebuild those. It even gets worse when you're talking about internet stuff, because internet stuff, like the Safari cache, that is downloading things from the internet and saying, well, you might need these soon. So instead of re-downloading them the next time you go to this web page, I'll have them here. If you delete the Safari cache, or say here's like the Firefox cache, for instance, all it's going to do is make it slower the next time you go to those pages. It's going to rebuild the cache anyway, and it's going to take up some of your bandwidth as well if you're paying for that. So in those cases, deleting caches isn't going to help, and it's probably going to hurt you. However, there are some cases where it pays to look in your cache folder. And I have a perfect example up here. ScreenFlow, the software I use to create my videos, has big caches because it's huge video files, high definition, screen captures, and everything. It uses caching a lot. If it didn't, it would be really hard to work with video because it would be slow to move around inside the video editor. So I see here's 5 gigs used by ScreenFlow 10. I don't want to touch that because I use ScreenFlow 10 every day. And chances are, if I'm working on a video right now and I delete that cache, if I go into ScreenFlow 10 again to continue working on my project, it's going to take a little while, maybe a minute, to rebuild that cache. It didn't help me at all. The cache is going to come back. It just slowed me down. But look what I have here, ScreenFlow 9. At some point, I upgraded from ScreenFlow 9 to ScreenFlow 10. When I did that, ScreenFlow 9 had a cache of stuff, thinking, oh, any minute he's going to launch me again. I've got this cache waiting here. And I didn't, because I went and I launched ScreenFlow 10 and never looked back and never used ScreenFlow 9 again. Now I've got this orphaned cache from an app that is the old version of the app. I can delete that and save 1.44 gigs. I can look through the rest of this. Here's Microsoft Edge. There's the cache from Microsoft Edge. And I said before, I was playing around with it. I'm not going to use it anymore. I can delete that cache. It's not going to hurt me because I'm not going to go back into Microsoft Edge, and it's, you know, it's not doing me any good there. So sorted by size, you could just look at the top stuff. You know, when you get to about here or here, you know, the files are getting really small, and you don't have to worry about the little ones down here at the bottom. But you can look at this stuff and see, maybe you've got some app that you used, you know, a year ago, and it left a 2 GB cache there waiting for you to use it again, but you're not. And now you can delete the cache. In general, it's safe to delete anything in the cache folder. It's not going to like break the app or break your project. You just don't want to do it if it's something that you're currently using like that. And you do want to do it if you notice something is kind of orphaned by an old app you're not using anymore. So that's my rule for cache deletion. And it's, you know, everybody else says, oh, delete your caches, they're taking up space. And that's, you know, kind of the wrong advice. As a matter of fact, one of the things that the cleaning apps do, right, those apps that, you know, they'll take your money and say, oh, we'll clean your Mac for you. And they're basically doing a lot of the things I'm talking about now. One of the things they'll do is they'll say, oh, I'm going to clean out your cache. I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff. And I just saved you 7 gigs of space. And you'd be like, wow, why didn't I get this cleaning out before? It saved me 7 gigabytes of space. Not realizing that the next time you went and ran, you know, in my case, ScreenFlow, everything was going to be a bit slower while it rebuilt the cache. And then most of that 7 gigs just went back into cache. It didn't really do me any good. Okay, so next, messages. So messages really depends on what you've got going on. In my demo account, I didn't have many attachments in messages. I mean, obviously, little text messages don't take up much space. But when somebody sends you a photo or a video, that takes up space. And that's going to be saved on your drive. If you've got the kind of thing where you've got friends and family that are always sending you videos and memes and photos and stuff, you could actually build up many gigabytes of stuff in the Messages app. And you can go in here. I can go to this image. This is an image here. I can control click on it and delete it from this. I could even go and click the I button here for this conversation. And if I look through this, it'll say, oh, here are your photos and videos. And I could actually delete stuff here. But that's time consuming, and it requires you to be looking through like all of your messages and stuff. You don't need to worry about that because it is in our friend, the storage manager, messages. And it's going to show you, and you can sort by size, all of the attachments for the largest messages that you've got. You could even do Command A, and you can delete everything there. Now, whether or not you want to do that, of course, you want to think about it. Like if there's a photo in here you want to save, maybe you haven't saved it yet, or a video somebody sent you and you want to save it, then, you know, obviously you want to save it first before cleaning it out of messages. And this is a good example of that whole changing your behavior kind of thing. Let's say, for instance, this here, this is one of the Mac Most videos. Let's say this is a friend sent you a video and you want to save this. There's a button right here next to it. You can click on that and you could save this video here. If you haven't done that, if you're thinking, oh, I'll get around to that later, and now you find that you've got a ton of stuff in messages taking up many gigs of space, that's where you can kind of learn from it and say, all right, from now on, now that I've cleaned this up, in messages, if somebody sends me a photo and I want to keep it, I am going to click that button and save it. I'm never going to rely on it being in messages. And that way I know that when I go here, I could just delete all my attachments because I've saved everything that's important to me. So that's messages. Now I'm going to go look at another place. This is a, I thought this would be extremely rare, but once I learned about this place that takes up a lot of space on your drive, I did a search and I was amazed how many people actually have this problem. So this is the Mail app. So in the Mail app, you can go, and I think in a couple places, but I'm going to show you one called the Connection Doctor. There is a checkbox here for log connection activity. And if you turn that on, what happens is that every little thing, every time your email client connects with your email server, all the little messages it gets, received this message, sent this message, all that is saved to a log file. Well, if you turn that on and you forget about it, a few months later, that log file is massive. And it's so easy to forget it's there. And then you're like, why am I running out of space? And you search around, you can't figure out why that is happening. Eventually maybe come across a post where somebody mentions, have you checked your connection log for mail? And then you find out that's it. The first thing to do, of course, is make sure you turn this off if you don't want it on. Then you click the show logs button and it'll actually take you to this folder. This folder is in your user folder, in your home folder, library, containers, mail, data, library, logs, mail. Way deep down. You don't have to remember that path. You can just go to the connection doctor and mail like I showed and click show logs. Now look at these tiny little files here. Well, I experimented and left connect the logs on for a few days. They get to be big pretty quick. The only reason these are small are because I would turn it on for like just a minute or two and get mail and then stopped. But these will be huge. And there are people online I've seen that have turned it on and a year later find out it's like 20 gigs in size. So that's a place you should know about to check to see if you've got an issue there. All right.
Gary, I have a comment about that.
Yeah.
We do a clinic once a month, and we stumbled across this, and I've seen it several times work on other people's computers. Mm-hmm. Somehow that gets turned on without them doing it automatically, and it's just, I've seen it fill up a 1 terabyte hard drive, and the computer was unusable. I'm like, what the hell?
I'm trying to figure that out too, like how it gets turned on, and I'm thinking that I think certain errors that you might get in mail, there might be error messages that are displayed, and it may not even be in the current versions of mail. It may be in versions from 2 or 3 years ago, where it comes up with an error message and there's a bunch of stuff, and one of the options is to turn logging on. And I think that's where maybe something like that is happening, where people have turned it on, and I suspect it's not there anymore. Because I've been looking all around for how do you accidentally enable logs? And my conclusion is the most likely thing is it was easy to accidentally enable logs a couple of years ago, and now it's not. So I can't find it.
And once it's on, it will fill your hard drive.
Oh yeah.
There's no limit to it. It's like doesn't self-regulate. It just goes all the way to the end.
It's not that is the key. It's like an unregulated log file. Your Mac has tons of log files that your system regulates really well. And that's the special one that it's like, hey, the user said they wanted a log file. I'm just going to obey what the user said. I'm going to keep growing this log file to the drive's full. So anyway, it's probably worth just checking there and turning that off just in case, peace of mind for that. All right. So next, we've got photos. You actually have photos listed here in the storage manager, but it doesn't give you any. You can't do anything except see the size. So let's actually go to the Photos app, and we can look there. So the first thing is figure out where your library really is. You've got your Photos library here. If you go to Preferences, and then you look at General, at the top here it says Library Location. And you can actually click right there on that and it will take you to it. So in this case, this is the default setup. It is in my home folder, pictures folder, and it's called Photos Library.Photos Library. And for most people, that's all they're going to have. But it is useful to look at that file and then see how big it is, 1.24 gigs. For a lot of people, this is going to be your single biggest file on your Mac, and that's fine. I mean, my regular one is, I think it's 120 gigs in size, which is fine. I take lots of photos. I have lots of cameras. I go on vacation and come back with thousands of photos and things. So having that be the biggest thing on my drive is exactly what I want. That's one of the main uses for my Mac is to keep all my photos. But you do want to go and look here and say, okay, now I have a handle on it. This is how much space my photos take up. You also can look here and see if maybe you have other photos libraries taking up space. Now, If your photos library is taking a lot of space and that's an issue for you, say it's 90 gigs and that's just, you just don't have the space for that. The main way to handle that is you have to fall back onto iCloud. So you could turn on in Photos Preferences, iCloud, turn on iCloud Photos, and make sure it's set to optimize Mac storage. Either one of these will upload everything, all your photos to iCloud. But this first one, download originals to this Mac, means that every single photo is also on your local Mac. You won't save any space. This means that old photos you haven't looked at in a while, they will just be in iCloud and you'll only see thumbnails of them on your Mac, but they'll download on demand. If they have a fast enough connection, you may not really notice the difference between these two. Because as soon as you go to look at a photo, it downloads it instantly and it's there and it feels like it's on your drive. But you could save a lot of space. If you have 90 gigs of photos, you may only end up with 10 gigs of stuff on your Mac. Once you turn this on, it takes a long time to upload all your photos. And then after that, it takes a long time to optimize because it's going to wait and see, oh, you don't look at these photos or those photos or whatever. And you'll see the actual space being used by your photos library here, the one in the Finder. Let me go back to that. This one, you'll see this eventually go down, but don't expect it to go down until everything's uploaded and some time has elapsed. So it's not the kind of thing where it's like, I need space now. Turning on iCloud Photos with Optimize is going to get me that space. No, it's the kind of thing, it's like, this is going to become a problem soon. Let me do this, so at least my photos library will be optimized. So that's like the biggest thing you can do to save space there. If you do want to have all your photos local, it's just going to have to wait till your next Mac until you have a bigger drive. Also, note that there are other advantages to having the iCloud Photos turned on. Like, for instance, all your photos sync automatically across all devices. You take a picture with your iPhone, and now it's not only on your iPhone, but it's on your Mac. You don't even have to do anything. So for me, those advantages are huge. I don't actually even use optimized Mac storage on my real account. That big 120 gig photos library, that's all there on my regular account. They're all local. I have a really big hard drive in my Mac. And this Mac, this one we're demoing on, but it's my regular user account. But I have iCloud Photos not for saving space on that drive, but so I can see all my photos on my iPhone, my iPad, and my MacBook Pro, which is my secondary Mac. So for me, it's worth it for that. And I love the fact I can take a photo on my iPhone and it's in my library right away. I could sit down on my Mac a minute later and it's right there and I can start playing around and editing it. Another thing while we're in photos is a lot of times people say, look, I don't take that many photos, but my photos library is huge. It's 40 gigs. It can't possibly all be photos. What's going on here? Well, what a lot of people don't realize is it's videos too. In this demo account, there's just 2 videos here. But if you are using your iPhone and you take a lot of photos and videos, you may just love taking quick videos, right? Quick videos of your kids, your grandkids, your friends, your vacations, all of that. You have 5-second videos, 5-minute videos. You just fill it, and that's great. But you may find that your videos actually are 90% of your photos library, and your photos are just a small portion of that. And now you need to save space. One option is that you may want to consider storing videos elsewhere. For instance, having an external drive that's dedicated to storing your videos. And then instead of having them here in the photos library, you just drag and drop them onto the external drive. So they're there. You give them good file names. So, you can look at the file names and see what they are. And you just remove them from your photos library. So instead of having a 40 gig library that's 30 gigs of videos, you now have a 10 gig library that's just photos. It's not for everybody. Some people definitely want to have their videos as part of it. Some people might not take videos at all, but it's kind of a suggestion. It's what I actually do. I'll come back from a trip and have like 1,000 photos and maybe 6 videos. And each video is like 2 or 3 minutes long. I'll take those 6 videos, I put them in this archive drive that holds my videos. I'll name them something, and they're separate. So another way to save space on your drive. I mentioned you may see some other photo libraries here, like you may have others. You may actually even want to do a search for .photos library or .iPhoto, and look for other libraries that you may have. An example, typical thing is an acquaintance says, I'm getting married. We don't know each other that well, but come to my wedding, have a free meal, take a bunch of photos because I know you're good with the camera. And you say, sure, I'll do that for you. And then you take a bunch of photos. Now, you're not going to put that person's wedding photos in with your regular photos. So you go into the Photos app, you create a separate library, you put all their photos in there, you edit them, you play around with them, you export them to a gallery, and you give it to them. And then you forget that you have this person's wedding photos on your hard drive, and they're taking up like 5 gigs of space. So 3 years later, you look at, you can look and say, oh yeah, I've got that photos library. I don't need that anymore. And you can delete it. Another example is back in 2013, when there was the transition between iPhoto to the Photos app, one of the options you had was to upgrade your iPhoto library to Photos and keep the old iPhoto library around. It was a smart thing to do. Just in case something was wrong with the transition, your iPhoto library was still there. But then a lot of us forgot about that old iPhoto library. So now you go and you do a search for iPhoto, and maybe in this same folder here in pictures, maybe somewhere else, you find you've got a 60 gigabyte iPhoto library that the last modified date was 2013. And you're like, oh yeah, that thing, I forgot about it. Well, I guess I don't need it. I've been using Photos for a long time, and I know all my photos are there and fine and safe. So something to think about.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
If I have iCloud photo, can I keep my full-size pictures on my computer, but is it possible to have the videos go to the cloud, or does it's one way or the other for everything?
Yeah, it's one way or the other for everything. You can't, yeah. So if you want to store your videos not in iCloud, then you would just take them out of the Photos library, store them as files like I do. Okay. The downloads folder. Oh, yeah. Another question?
Another question. Before we get too far away from photos and videos.
Yeah, sure.
I typically don't take videos, but I often take them by mistake.
Yeah.
So I think I'm taking just a picture, but I have a 1 to 2 minute video.
Yeah.
And what I really want to know is, how can I take one picture out of that video to keep the picture and then throw the video away?
So yeah, you can do that. I'm trying to remember here. Let's see. If you select a video in the library here,
Okay.
it's a little convoluted, but I'm trying to remember now. I know for a while you could actually take a freeze frame from here. I don't think you
do. Yeah.
I don't think you can anymore. I'm trying to remember if I do copy, I think that copies the whole thing. What you can do is you can go to edit with, and then edit with QuickTime Player. Okay, so what that's going to do is it's going to take that video that's in here and open it up in QuickTime Player. So you see now I'm in QuickTime Player here. I'm looking at the same video. Now, QuickTime Player does allow you to take a freeze frame. So you get to the point where you get, oh, that's the one I want. And you simply do a Command C. Okay, copy. And that actually copies the image to the clipboard. Now you just need to take your favorite image editor. Like I'll do Preview here, since we all have Preview. Preview has the handy File New from Clipboard. And there we go. We now have a preview image in the Preview app that is what I copied from that video. So now I could do Command S to save, and you see it's going to save it as a JPEG. So you would save it out, put it like on the desktop or something, and then drag and drop it into the Photos app. A lot of steps, but each one's kind of just its own little simple thing.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, the sad thing is that, of course, videos are usually lower resolution. Like if you took high definition video,
Yeah.
that would only be 1920 by 1080. In pixels, which is smaller than if you took a regular camera shot. But hey, it's better to have that lower resolution photo than not have a photo at all. So it's good that you can do that.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Downloads folder. So downloads folder is like an example I used right at the beginning. I you can open up your downloads folder here, or actually if you can do go, and then you can go to downloads, and it takes you to your downloads folder, which is typically in your home folder right there. This is a place where a lot of us sin. We download installers. Somebody sends us a video, we watch the video, and then we forget, it's just a one-time thing, and then we don't delete it out of the downloads folder. A PDF, right? Oh, a PDF of instructions on how to do whatever, and it's in your downloads folder. You look at it and you say fine, and then you leave it in your downloads folder, and then you can end up with a downloads folder that's huge, right? So you can go to your downloads folder, you can sort by size, you can see what the biggest things are and all of that. Ideally, your downloads folder should be empty. The probably the best practices way to handle the downloads folder is you download something and then you deal with it right there. If it's something you want to save, like maybe it's a receipt, right, for something you bought, it saves to the download folder, it's a PDF. Now you want to move it out of the downloads folder, put it somewhere in your organization, put it in your documents folder under receipts or whatever. Sometimes it's like an installer and you install an app. Now you want to go to the downloads folder and delete the installer now that you've installed the app. But we all forget to do that. I forget to do that. So you look in your downloads folder and you say, oh boy, there's a bunch of big things in here. I'm going to go delete it, clear out my downloads folder. Maybe you want to go through it step by step and see, oh, is there something in here that I need that I forgot? And then, kind of learn from your mistakes and say, from now on, the downloads folder is going to be empty by default. When I download something, I deal with it. So that's the downloads folder. The trash is kind of a similar thing. So you go to the trash folder by going in the dock there to the trash. And this is where a lot of people have a lot of stuff, right? You throw stuff away, you put it in the trash, and you forget that stuff's in your trash. And then you find out you have 10 gigs of stuff in your trash. And of course, getting rid of it is easy. Just empty the trash. You've got the empty button right here, or in the Finder, you can go to empty trash. The rule with the trash is you should never put anything in the trash that you're not willing to delete right now. So anytime you look at the trash, you can say, just delete it. I don't even need to review it. If it's in the trash, I wanted it gone in the first place. The whole idea is it's a safety net. So instead of having one step to delete and then saying, oops, well, that was the wrong file, you now move to the trash, and then you could say, oh, that was the wrong file, and now you can get it out of the trash, right? So you're going to clean up your Mac. If you've been following the rule that only things that you are ready to delete right now go into the trash, you should be able to just empty it and not look back. If you haven't been following that rule, then you may want to look through it now and then follow that rule from that point on. Now, emptying the trash, that's all, great for now, but you keep putting stuff in the trash, it's going to build up again. There's a feature under Finder, Preferences, Advanced, that's remove items from the trash after 30 days. And if you check that, the trash, instead of becoming, this thing where I'll keep this forever until you empty the trash, it becomes a 30-day buffer. Anything you accidentally throw away is going to be there for 30 days, and then it'll be removed. And then you don't have to worry about your trash getting too big from that point on. So next, see how are we doing? Boy, I'm getting towards the end here, but definitely running a little long, so I'll try to speed it up. Applications is another thing. Let's go in the Finder to the applications folder. The easiest way to get to the applications folder is go and then applications. And then you can also sort by size here and see your biggest applications. So you don't have to worry about these tiny little ones here at the bottom. You can sometimes there's folders in the applications folder. So you can do calculate all sizes like before, just so it has the folders mixed in here. You can look through your biggest ones, Xcode. Obviously, I'm a developer. I'm not getting rid of Xcode. But the next two are games. Well, it turns out that, I haven't played either of these two games in a little while. And I bought them. I can easily re-download them again so I can get rid of these games. And you can kind of look through your top stuff here and see which apps can you get rid of. Now, you can go into Launchpad to get rid of apps. If you click and hold on any app anywhere here, then any apps that you can uninstall because they're from the Mac App Store, you can click with the X and uninstall it right here in Launchpad. That's kind of the proper way to do it. You've got also a way to view applications here in the storage manager, and you can also sort by size. And here you can also delete apps. Now, sometimes apps are third-party apps like Adobe's apps right here. You don't necessarily want to just delete the app. You want to uninstall it the proper way. So like for an Adobe app, you want to use the Adobe Creative Cloud app thing there, and then it has like install and uninstall apps and things like that. Other things, you know, you just want to kind of know that, oh, this is something I downloaded, and maybe there's a proper way to uninstall it, since I can't uninstall it through Launchpad. So I always go to Launchpad first, and if you can't, like here's Zoom. Zoom is something you download, not something you install through the App Store. So maybe I would go and try to find the proper way to uninstall Zoom instead of just deleting it from the application folder. But you can save a lot of space by getting rid of apps that you're not using anymore. And you can save a lot of space by getting rid of apps that you're not using right now, especially if they're in the Mac App Store. Anything in the Mac App Store, you can re-download again. Here's Final Cut Pro. It's 3.4 gigs. Maybe I haven't used it in a while. Maybe I'm thinking I'm not going to need this in the near future. You can uninstall Final Cut Pro and know that you can go back to the Mac App Store where you purchased Final Cut Pro for $300 and then re-download it right there. And a lot of apps, you can do that.
Question. You
Yeah.
said it was the best way to delete apps is with Launchpad. Does that also delete all the, you know, little preferences and everything that goes with it?
Anything that's properly installed through the App Store doesn't have all of that. So you've got, you know, the old way the apps used to be made is that they would install the app and then they'd put all the stuff in the library. They would say, you know, the full app is the app itself, the executable, and then there's going to be 20 gigs of stuff in your library. Years ago, Apple said, that's not the right way to make apps. And all modern developers today, all that stuff's in the app itself, right? You're not supposed to be putting stuff in the library. Companies like Adobe still put stuff in the library. That's why it's important to use their own, you know, uninstaller that knows to go and look for things, get rid of it. But the stuff you install from the Mac App Store shouldn't be doing that. If they install a small preference file, it's going to be tiny and nothing for you to, you know, to even be worried about. The stuff it'll leave behind like those are just like specks of dust in your hard drive.
Gary?
Yeah.
One of the things that we've found in our clinic and in our own personal use is that there's a free app out there called App Delete for just those things. And it's a very handy little application that puts a box up on the screen that says drag application here. And then it goes in and ferrets out all the little pieces of all the stuff that you're trying to delete in one fell swoop.
I don't like any of those apps.
You don't?
App Cleaner is the name of it.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, App Cleaner. That's the one. I
don't use any of those, and I don't recommend any of those.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I if it's from the Mac App Store, use the Launchpad to uninstall it. If it's not, then find out the right way to uninstall it. You know, like, you know, we talked about Zoom before. If I wanted to uninstall Zoom, you know, I'd probably launch Safari and I would search for uninstall Zoom Mac. Maybe I should spell it right. And right there at support.zoom.com is the complete instructions for how to uninstall Zoom. Sometimes those instructions are just drag it to the trash, you know, which is great. That means, all right, they did everything. Whenever you see that, I love it because they did everything right. That means dragging it to the trash is all you need to do to uninstall it. And they still supplied a support page telling you, reassuring you that that's all you need to do. I love when developers do that. Sometimes they'll go and say, drag it to the trash, but also go to your library folder, look for this, and you could throw this stuff away. Other times they'll be like download or uninstall it, right? You use an installer to install it, download or uninstaller. It's like a little tiny app and you run that and it gets rid of all the stuff, maybe clears out the cache, does all that nice stuff. So yeah, let's see.
Thanks.
Sure. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you is basically once you've done all of that, That's getting rid of all the stuff in like library and applications and the system and all. You still have your own files to deal with. So, you know, to deal with your own files in the Finder, you know, you want to go to where you keep all your files. Usually that's either your home folder, or if you're super neat like me, it's in your documents folder. You know, so I go to documents, which is an iCloud, and you just know you've got all your stuff there. And at this point, you want to go and say, all right, do I have anything? Have I created some big, massive documents that I've forgotten about that I could clean out? And the way to do this is, you know, I'm starting in my documents folder here. I could go and say, all right, I'm going to do list view. I'm going to turn on calculate all sizes right here so I can see the size of every folder. I can sort by size, so the biggest folders at the top, and I could open each one of these and see exactly what's inside. And I could see, you know, if there's another folder, oh, here's a folder inside of this, and it's that size. And I want to go through and do a spring cleaning. And you have to, you know, on the one hand, get rid of files you may not need anymore. On the other hand, you may, you have to learn from it and say, yeah, boy, I have the bad habit of forgetting that I've got, you know, I create this large file every time, you know, every time I'm working on an iMovie project, I'm always exporting versions of it, and then I save all the versions. I have a bad habit of doing that. Just save the final one and delete them when I'm done. That kind of thing. You just have to keep that in mind. So you look through all your files and you figure out what you want to delete. Now, there is a second option besides deleting files, and that's archiving. Archiving is, the way I define it, it's the practice of, you know, taking a file that you don't think you'll need anymore or don't think you'll need anytime soon and putting it in another location. The typical thing to do is to get an external hard drive. Find an external hard drive, it's your archive drive. And then you connect that to your Mac when you want to get rid of some stuff, archive some stuff. And then you find something you're not using anymore. You know, some videos, some documents, whatever it is. This is old stuff. I don't think I need it on my Mac anymore, but I don't want to delete it permanently, just in case. And you move that to the external drive. You have a nice organization there. You've got a, you know, folder for videos, folder for business stuff, whatever it is, however you want to do it. I used to do it by year, you know, and create like a, you know, 2011 archive, 2012 archive, and put stuff in there. And then this external drive basically is going to hold all the stuff. So instead of deleting and it's gone forever, you're putting it in your archive drive just in case you may need it again. And so archiving is a really useful tool for clearing off space on your drive when you're not sure what you want to delete and what you don't. Now, there's another way to look for your files, and that is go back to the storage manager, and you actually can go in here to documents. And documents has a couple things. First, it has large files, and it will show you a list of the largest files in your drive. And you could sort by size and see which ones are really big. And maybe you find something you didn't know, like, oh, untitled.fcp bundle. FCP is Final Cut Pro. And maybe that doesn't say untitled. Maybe it says, you know, summer vacation project. And I was like, oh yeah, I took all my videos from my summer trip and I tried to make this music video and it didn't work out. It wasn't, you know, or maybe it worked out and it's fine, but I don't need this 68 gig source file anymore. I'm done with that. And you can go and delete it here or show in Finder to see where it is. That's good. You even have a downloads. This will show what's in your downloads folder. So another way to look at your downloads folder. File browser, though, is a way to actually look at all your files that's in your home folder, very similar to what we were doing in Finder just a minute ago. It'll show you all your folders. You can see which one's biggest on top, and you can dig down into each one, and it'll show you the folder sizes, the file sizes, and you can select anything that you want and move it to trash. So an even more convenient way. What's great about doing it in the Finder is that archiving thing. Is you can go through here and say, oh, I don't need these. I can put them on my archive drive. Because I'm doing a spring cleaning right now, my archive drive is connected. Maybe it's shown right here as a location. I drag it to my archive drive right there. And that is actually my archive drive right there. And I could, you know, I wouldn't drag it to the top level of the archive drive. I would probably have another, you know, window open and have the archive drive in that and drag it to the proper folder in there. So doing it in the Finder has a lot of versatility, but you can do it in here as well. And that's pretty much it. You know, once you've gone through all that stuff, and then given your own files a good hard look, you have pretty much taken care of getting rid of everything you can off your drive. I would say when you're looking through your hard drive for files, organize while you're there, right? If you do notice, oh, this miscellaneous folder, what's this about? Maybe I should take the time here to take like 30 seconds to actually make subfolders here or move these to a certain place or whatever, really, do the cleanup as well as the deleting things. A lot of the stuff I've talked about, I did a very special episode of Mac Most a while ago, which was the start of this whole thing. And there's a video, but what I did, and this is like completely unusual for me, I've done this like once in the last 5 years, is underneath the video, there's actually an article with a lot of this stuff that I've talked about listed right here. So the cool thing is that, if you forgot about one of the things I mentioned, or you want to know, like, where were caches, it's all listed here in this article. So some place for you to review all this stuff. So the URL for that is at the top there. Hope you can see it. And you can go check that out. So that's the end of my presentation. And boy, my voice is shot.
Hey. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any questions?
We finally see the man himself.
Oh, I have a question.
Mhm.
How did you find the size? You push the Option key down and get the size of the file?
So for files, usually it's in list view, it's listed right here.
Right, you're in a manager. You're in this.
Oh,
storage-
you're talking about that in here.
Yeah.
So this is under documents here.
Okay.
And then documents has these things here at the top, large files, file browser, and all of that.
Oh, okay.
Is that what you're looking for?
Gary,
Well,
I noticed something that I hadn't seen before.
Thank you.
The unsupported apps. I looked at mine. That's 32-bit apps. So you can clean your 32-bit apps because those
Yeah.
don't work anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got a couple that I've kept here just so I could show them off if I need to.
That's under documents?
Yeah, that's also under documents.
Why it's
course,
in documents. It's not a document. It's an app. That's weird.
You can't have a nice complex feature of Mac OS without having some contradictory thing like that. Documents, apps, sure, okay. But I guess they don't run anymore. They're documents, right? They're only apps if they can actually run.
Yep, you can
Oh,
select
yeah.
all and delete those. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
My
Or
goodness.
update them if you're like, oh boy, I'm going to need that, tax time, and it's 32-bit. All right, I better go look for a replacement now.
Gary.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you for doing the video on hiding apps rather than quitting them. For years,
Oh.
I quit apps and I'm now in the habit of hiding them. Works a lot better.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's that's a tech. That's not only a video I did, but a technique I practice all the time. I'm in a demo account now, but I guarantee you if I switched over to my regular account, there'd be at least 12 apps currently that are running that are hidden.
Gary? Gary, I also signed up for your weekly email that gives all the different topics that you have videos on for that week. And I have enjoyed that very much.
Oh, thanks. Great. Yeah, it's a much more convenient way to view it. Just get once a week. Here's the 5 new videos, and you get and then you usually I try to make sure there's something for everybody, but it doesn't always work out. But I think I'm succeeding if every week somebody goes and finds at least one video there that I've done that they could learn something from.
So I do the
I second
MailChimp. We have a weekly newsletter I send out, and every morning I go through and look at a lot of sites, but yours is number 1. See if there's something that's pertinent, it's not too geeky, and I put it in the MailChimp. And in the MailChimp, you can see on the stats how many clicks are on each one. I can see what's popular. And every once in a while, you'll get one that just clicks, and everybody, that's the one,
Yeah, I see that for my newsletter too. And also, of course, when I you know, because I put everything on my site, but I also put it at YouTube, and it's fascinating to see what clicks on YouTube as well, because a lot of my all my traffic to my site are usually people that are, you know, used to coming to MacMost and all of that. But at YouTube, there's a lot of new people that never heard of me before. So, you know, every once in a while I'll be like, oh, people want to know about the iPhone weather app, apparently, because that was a really popular video yesterday.
Gary, this unsupported apps thing is a huge revelation to some of us. But does it find the tiny bitty apps like, you know, random Epson scanner utilities, or
I'm not sure.
Like when we run Go64, you know, you'll have like 80 million apps that are on somebody's computer that you have to go in and, you know, figure out how to get rid of. But most of them are these, you know, like the Snow Leopard installer video or whatever that's actually an app. You don't know if that.
I don't know. I haven't done it. I haven't tried to like compare it. You know, I mean, my Mac here is pretty clean, and then I've got an M1.
Right.
Oh, because yeah, so my other Mac is an M1, you know, MacBook Pro. That wouldn't have had anything on it,
right?
You know, any 32 bits to begin with. So yeah, I'd be interested to see, like, to hear, like, if you found out, you know, if you come across somebody that's got, you know, an old Mac and they've got a lot of 32-bit apps that show up that way, if they also show up here.
Yeah, well, the next time I run into it, I'm certainly can compare.
Yeah, compare, and yeah, let me know what you find.
That's interesting. Yeah, because this would be a huge time saver if it found all the cruft.
We're used to using it, some really old computers, like, and they've been migrated over the years. People who have 10-year-old computers that have been migrated for the 10 years, and it just piles up and piles up and piles up. We see people with OS 9 and system folder stuff on their hard drive still.
Yes,
it's like that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and stop the screen sharing so we can get back to gallery view? It's prettier for.
There we go.
We can see all the smiling faces.
So,
Can we still ask questions?
Yeah.
Janet?
Oh, you mentioned hiding apps. Is that with Command Option H, or was there another way to hide apps?
Command H is the main way.
Command H.
Gary, do you ever use the programs like Grand Perspective, this old graphic program that shows you the size of all your files on your computer?
Nope. I basically use that technique. I've always used that technique, you know, where I go to the Finder and say, all right, starting at my home folder, what's the biggest thing? You know, what are the biggest folders? Oh, the movies folder. What's in the movies folder? Oh, these things. And now, of course, I've got that and that, you know, the storage manager, both basically showing you that kind of deal. But yeah, I've always just gone and done that. I like lists. I like seeing things in lists. And, you know, I try not to install apps on my Mac unless there's a good reason to do so. And one of the things that I have a lot of problems with the cleaning apps. One of the problems I have with them is the whole idea is like, oh, you want to get rid of stuff on your Mac? Step one, put more stuff on your Mac. You know, it's like, take a step back first and then we'll move forward. You know, it's like, I'd rather teach people how do you do it with the tools that are there. You know, and just, you know, using what you can already do. The storage manager is something Apple's giving you, but looking at them in the Finder, just at your list of files, that's something you could do now. It's something you could have done 10 years ago. It's something you do on Windows, on Linux. You know, I mean, it's basically the same thing I would have done, you know, to look at a disk on my Apple II back in 1985, you know, to just look through the files, sort by size and all of that. And it doesn't take that long. Like, I don't find that, boy, doing a spring cleaning on my Mac takes so long. I wish I had a tool to make it faster. It's like, no, it doesn't take long. And I can organize while I go. That's another thing that these cleaning apps a lot of times skip over. They're like, hey, we found these 10 files. Can I get rid of them? And you're like, yeah. And you don't learn anything. You didn't think about, oh, maybe I need to organize better. Maybe my downloads folder, I need to handle that differently. So you just end up dependent on this app to keep your Mac clean instead of saying, hey, if I just have my trash automatically deleted every 30 days, deal with stuff in the downloads folder when I download it, and do a couple other things. Turns out the next time I do a cleaning, oh, there's nothing to clean. Like I've changed, and now my Mac is always clean.
Well, it didn't used to be so much of a problem when for the last 10 years, Macs had 1 terabyte default drives. Now the default is 256 SSD. And
Yeah,
so people don't think about that, and all of a sudden they don't have any space. It's like, oops.
Yeah, I think that was a big problem a lot of people had is SSDs were more expensive. So they took a step back in storage.
Hold on, Rick. Sorry. Rick, David also has his hand up for a while.
Okay.
David?
I'm hearing somebody muted.
I think, David, I think you're muted.
I was trying to push down on command or space bar, but that didn't work. Yeah, my question is, when you were talking about archive and getting an archive drive, I think that's great, and just part of your systematic. Drag it over there if you're not sure you might not want it again. What is the archive on mail? Mail gives you an archive. Is that a different order of beast, or what is that?
Yeah, that's a whole different beast. So basically, the two best email systems out there, I think, are iCloud and Gmail, and they both have a very similar archiving kind of function, where the idea is if stuff comes in your inbox, you deal with it and you archive it. And it's basically think of it as all your saved email. It's just everything in this one big folder. iCloud just has this archive folder there by default. You don't have to use it. You could create your own folders like receipts, invoices, whatever you want to call them. And the way Gmail deals with it is everything's labels. So it's not really folders, it's really labels. And archive is really what Gmail calls all mail. So it's like everything goes in there. It's different. It's really not related to the archive drive thing, but it's a good way to handle email. I actually have a video. I did a special Saturday series in November and December on productivity. And one of those was about email productivity. And I talk a lot about how I use the archive folder.
But basically, for example, every month I could take last month's emails and throw them in there if I didn't want to throw them away, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do it where I take every email and goes directly in the archive folder. It comes in my inbox. I deal with it, respond or take an action or put a calendar event or whatever it is, and then it immediately goes in the archive folder. So my inbox is almost always empty.
So you set that up with rules?
No, I treat, I think of it as, remember the old fashioned, we used to have desks before email, and there was like the actual inbox, that's where it got its name.
Yeah.
The idea was that you wanted that to be empty, right?
Right.
So somebody would come in and they put something in that box. And you'd be like, oh, what's this? And you take it out and you look at it and say, oh, it's a memo about something. All right, there's a new procedure. Great. And then you take it and you either throw it in the trash or you file it away or whatever. I treat the inbox kind of the same way. It's like, oh, something new came in, deal with it, take an action, and then immediately the inbox only contains things that I have to do something with, right away. Otherwise, it's empty.
But archive is a way to keep things if you're kind of anally retentive and you want to hang on to your emails. Huh?
Well, yeah, I think of it as ways everything goes into archive because it's easiest to do, and I could search and find anything I want in there. An email,
exactly.
3 years ago, I'll just find it. Yeah.
Right. Thanks.
You must be a better searcher than I am. I have to put things in folders, to do with this club or that group or what, so I've got 100 folders. And
a lot of people do. Yeah. No, I prefer no folders. I have no folders.
I think Rick was next.
Yeah, I had a question. It's a little off the subject of storage and cleaning, but I noticed that you have at least one video out on Affinity Photo, and I'd like your opinion on it, if you can, compare Affinity with Photoshop and what your preferences are there.
So my go-to right now is Pixelmator Pro. But I shift. About 2 years ago, my go-to was Acorn, right? For a while, for about 2 years, Acorn I used for everything. Before Acorn, I used an app that doesn't exist anymore called Adobe Fireworks. I love that app, and unfortunately it went away. So I went to Acorn, and then I went to Pixelmator Pro. It's a preference. It really is. It's like I could do everything that I do in Pixelmator Pro in Affinity Photo. And probably if I forced myself to use it for 3 days in a row, I'd then be using Affinity Photo. You know, it's just a matter of I'm used to using Pixelmator. I've learned the tools and the keyboard shortcuts at this point. So I'm probably going to be with Affinity Photo for, sorry, Pixelmator Pro for a while. If you've used Affinity Photo for a little bit and you're used to that and you know how to, do all its tricks, then Affinity Photo is probably, the better tool for you right now instead of switching over. They're all very competitive with each other, always trying to outdo each other with features, which is great for us, right? Photoshop is, Photoshop's expensive, but it has two big advantages. One is that it's the industry standard, right? So if you're a working graphic artist, you're kind of expected to use Photoshop. And, people are going to send you stuff in Photoshop format. People are going to expect stuff from you in Photoshop, and they're going to want to collaborate with you in Photoshop. So you kind of like have to use Photoshop. The other advantage of Photoshop is the tutorials, right? Anything you want to do. I mean, just come up with any weird idea of how you want a photo to look, or any special effect you want. You search on YouTube, there's going to be 5 tutorials on how to do this in Photoshop. And you're never going to find that with Pixelmator Pro or Affinity Photo or Acorn or anything else. So that's kind of nice. And I've done things in Photoshop where I want to do a special effect. And it's like, I don't know how to do this in any of those apps, but here's a tutorial on how to do it in Photoshop. So I'll open up Photoshop and I'll do this one thing in Photoshop.
Thanks.
So those are kind of my thoughts there. Just use whatever tool you like. It may also be just kind of a subjective preference, like, oh, you like the icons, or you like how the interface is bright, or you just kind of click with it.
Thank you.
Ron was next. Ron, go ahead.
Yes, I just have a quick question. On Zoom, you have the capability of downloading recordings.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, do they go to the download folder?
I think so. Do they? Does anybody know?
They go, I record this meeting every week and they go into a Zoom folder. So when you're done with the meeting, all of a sudden it says it has to convert. Once the progress bar is done, it opens the window. I think it's in your documents folder in the Zoom folder is a special place where they put them.
Yes.
But you get the option of copying it to your
The reason for that is,
or the cloud.
The reason for that is there's an ability in Zoom where you can take like this recording. If somebody was to give it to you and you put it to your download folder, you can actually cut it. And even into the middle, you can find out where you're at. And like say, if you wanted to review a part of this video again, you could see it again yourself and keep it, because you were trying to work it over. That's why I was wondering how where it was located.
That's the default, I think. I didn't set it to be somewhere else. I think you probably can choose where it goes. But it saves like the video file and a chat file and a sound recording in case you want to use it for a podcast or something automatically.
But then you can, but anybody can download it, I believe, under if they're given the ability to go to look at it, they can then download it to their own machine. And then from there, they can do what they want with it. As I say, if they want to say review that same portion of the video again, they can keep a file of it themselves and then they can look at it back at it. Anyway, because I do hosting for Zoom and that's why I got into this.
A lot of apps use the downloads folder. another reason sometimes that gets filled up, like mail, for instance, if you go to download an attachment, the default location is downloads. And there was some other app I was using, a third-party app that allowed you to download stuff, and it just downloaded to the downloads folder. It's kind of like a safe place to download stuff. So even if you think, hey, I haven't downloaded anything on my web browser, why is my downloads folder full? It's probably some other app that is.
If people if they read their mail on the web and Gmail and they open an attachment, it puts it in downloads folder.
Yeah.
And it stays there. And then I've seen thousands of files in there. And if you open the same image again, it downloads it again. It appends 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll see 10 copies of the file. It's crazy. PDF files, same. Multiple copies of PDF files or Word files that just pile up.
Sure.
And Joanne's got her hand up.
Joanne, you're muted.
All right, I'd like to know what the URL is for the Clean Space video. He had it up, but it was so small, I couldn't read it.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
There it is.
We hadn't played that in our weekly meetings because I knew your topic was when you told it coming up. I didn't play it because I didn't want to have be a new material for you. I think it was in the MailChimp though. I think I put it in the MailChimp.
Good. Do we have other questions for
Yes.
Gary?
Yeah, their hands up.
Peter had his hand up. You're muted, Peter.
Okay, I'm not muted now, I think. Gary, is there a catalog of your MacMost presentations? Some way to search out subject topics?
Yeah, I've got 3 ways. If you go to macmost.com, at the top, there's an item that says video tutorials. And if you click on that, it actually is by category. So you can see like all the iMovie ones or all the number ones or, Finder, all in groups. Also, there's a search box at the top right. And so if you search for something like iMovie, it will come up with, iMovie videos first. And then if you look in the right sidebar, go all the way down to the bottom on the right sidebar, there's a link that will show you a list of every tutorial I've done all the way back to the beginning in chronological order. It's a huge list. Well, 2,600 videos.
Kenji had his hand up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just looked at my downloads folder and I've got almost a half terabyte in there right now.
Oh my God.
So I probably need to throw out a whole bunch of installers.
I think so.
That have been piling up in there for God knows how long. Do you use and like any of the app uninstaller programs like Mac Cleaner and Uninstaller Pro from Nectani?
Nope, I don't use any of those.
So you don't bother trying to get rid of the service files. You just when you discard an app.
Right. So first of all, I'm very picky about installing apps. So, I always think about like, all right, if I'm going to install something and I don't know whether or not, I want to try it out or whatever, I always try to balance it and say, if I don't like this, I'm going to, have to figure out how to uninstall it. I saw picky about what I would install, and then I just follow the rule. If it's Mac App Store, I just uninstall with Launchpad. If it's a third-party download, then I follow whatever their instructions are for uninstalling the app, which more and more are just delete it. It's not leaving any big files behind anymore. But if it is something that leaves big files behind, I try to find out beforehand. Usually, if it's not a media type of app, if it's not something for like making music or videos or something like that, it's not going to leave big files behind. So I'm not that worried about it. But I don't use any third-party uninstallers. At best, I don't really think they bring much extra to it. And at worst, they are bad. Like they're full with ads, they're trying to sell you other things, trying to scare you to buy other products and all that.
Mm-hmm.
If an app has whether you could buy it on the App Store or directly from the developer? Do you have a preference which way to go?
Well, the first thing I do is I look at what the developer says about the two versions, because what'll happen is sometimes the developer will say, well, okay, I had to leave some stuff out of the App Store version because, maybe it's a developer tool for me, and it's like, okay, there's these extra features if you get it directly from me because, technically these are more advanced functions and the App Store doesn't allow them. So I look to see if there's anything like that. If there's nothing like that and it's just the same version, on the one hand, I feel like I should buy it from the developer because they'll get more money directly. But on the other hand, the Mac App Store allows you to so easily install it, uninstall it, and install it on any other Macs that you've got, that I usually end up doing that. It's so great. I don't even I don't download all of the apps that I own. Like I probably, since the beginning of the App Store, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 apps, right, that I got from the App Store. I don't have even half that on my Mac now. Like an example would be Gift Brewery. Gift Brewery is an app that you can get in the App Store that allows you to create an animated GIF, right? I don't really use it on a regular basis. I'm sure I don't have that on my Mac right now. I know I could go to the Mac App Store right now, go to Gift Brewery, and it would be a little download button because I own it. And I would just click it, install it. It would take, a minute. And now I can use Gift Brewery. I love that I could do that. I love that I could get my MacBook Pro, and that probably only has like 10 apps installed, barely anything. And if I need an app, I can go and grab it. So the Mac App Store has that big advantage.
And can I ask one more question, which is, so I'm really curious about in your tutorials, how you do the on-screen key presses.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for that matter, I'm curious about your general workflow as far as what you use for recording them and editing them and such.
Yeah, so that's done in ScreenFlow. So I use ScreenFlow as the app. It's a great app that it's capturing the screen and my camera and my mic all at the same time. And they're all in sync. And then it's also capturing like where the cursor is, where the pointer is, and what keys I'm pressing as like a separate data stream. So I can go in and then say, okay, I want the screen capture to fill the screen, or I want to zoom in. I want to put myself at the bottom corner. And I want to, for this section, turn on, show me what keys are pressed. And then there's a bunch of settings in there, and like, where's it going to appear? It's going to be in the bottom center, and it's going to be red or whatever. And then every time I press the key while recording, it'll show that key on the screen automatically. And then same thing for moving the pointer around. I actually have it set to take my pointer and make it 150%. So the pointer, the arrow is actually bigger than you would normally see, but it's easier to see. And then every time I click, those little, circles come out of the pointer. And that's all something added by ScreenFlow. So it's all done in that. And my basic process is I think about what I'm going to say. Maybe I've got some notes, maybe like bullet lists of like, here's what I'm going to talk about. I start recording on my demo account. I have a demo, the account that you saw during this is my demo account. And I go into my demo account and I start recording, do my intro, and then I just do all the things I'm going to do in the tutorial and talk while I'm doing them. Sometimes recording myself 2 or 3 times if I make a mistake. I do it as one big long shot, 20, 25 minutes, typically, something like that. I stop recording and then I edit, and I'm cutting out all the times where I said something and messed up. And sometimes I did things like multiple times and I take the best one and I keep trimming and trimming and trimming until I'm down to 10 minutes or whatever it is. And add an intro, an outro, and go over the video a few times, adding little extras, zoom in on this part, show this in a highlight, extra things like that, until I get hungry for lunch, and then I say it's done.
Do you do the editing in ScreenFlow?
Yes. Yeah, because that's the only way to keep all that stuff, all like the keyboard clicks and all those things are all part of what ScreenFlow is recording. So I could actually at some point leave ScreenFlow and go to Final Cut Pro, but that would all be baked in at that point.
Thank you.
Larry has his hand up.
Yes, thank you, John. I keep getting nasty grams from Comcast that my emails are full or almost full. and I go through and sort them by size and delete them. But am I correct that from what you said, I also not need to go to my download file? There's some, might be stuff still there.
No, I mean, your downloads folder will be outside of Comcast. Yeah, I mean, finding your largest messages and deleting them is probably the only thing you could do. Of course, I recommend, I don't know if you've ever shown this video, but getting away from ISP email entirely. Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, whatever it is, because they're usually not very good at email, these services. They're kind of forced to, like, we need to, we're giving people internet connections, we need to give them email, and go over to Google or iCloud for it, and who handle it a lot better. They have better spam filters. Plus, the thing is that if you move and you have your email associated with your ISP,
right?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Whereas iCloud and Gmail doesn't matter. You can move it. You can move somewhere else in the world, to another country, and you would still have your same email address. Whereas you could literally move across the street in some places and lose your Comcast email address.
All right, thanks. I suspected that, but I'm kind of reluctant to start from scratch.
Well, look at, I did a video on that a while ago about, and maybe watch that. It might give you some, you feel better about it.
It's a time-consuming process. You've used your Comcast email as a login for any number of websites, your bank, your hospital. You have to go to each of those places and change your login email address.
I always tell people, wean yourself off of it before it's a problem, because if all of a sudden you lose Comcast, all of a sudden it's a friggin' disaster, because then you can't get into stuff and they're sending you mails to your Comcast you can't get. So work your way, get a Gmail, work your way towards your goal of getting out.
I just put in the chat a link.
And I see you, Janet, but I just want to add, locally, we have an ISP as Wave, which is the competition to Comcast around here. And we've said it till we're blue in the face. They have the worst email ever. They don't even have a security certificate. If you use this down, or now it's called Wave for email, you need to move. Janet, you had a question?
Oh, well, I was just going to say that I have mostly Gmail addresses, but I still have to empty my inbox on the Gmail site. Is there something I should be doing so that doesn't accumulate?
Well, for Gmail, I always just archive everything. I just, inbox, and then I put it in the archive folder. Or the nice thing is there's that archive shortcut, in the Mail app on your Mac. That's the same as moving it to the archive folder. And that's how I handle my Gmail. My main account is Gmail. I use both Gmail and iCloud, but like my account that's my domain name, that is actually a Gmail account. And so I've been using, Google's stuff for, since way before Apple got into the business. Well, and yeah.
But still, even if it's an archive, all mail, it has to be dumped at some point.
I mean, I don't ever dump any of it.
Well, then
Janet's her own special case here with her 80 million
folders.
Folders.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
the funny thing is, did anybody who are Wave customers get an email saying we're changing our name to Astound by Wave? They're going back to the Astound name.
I got it, and my husband uses it certainly more than I do, and he's not a big user, but I got it and I just ignored it. I only use it for like junk mail, things I don't care about. If you have to have an email, like if I'm ordering something online, you want an email and I don't want to hear from you again, I put it into my
throwaway email.
That's the word. Yeah, throwaway email.
Any more specific questions for Gary?
I got one.
Yeah, John.
Gary, do you know of a program that can do the key press on the screen without using? We don't want to, because we're doing a lot. We used a lot of in-person meetings, which we haven't done for 2 years. But it'd be nice to have that while you're demoing via Zoom when you're screen sharing, the button where you're clicking and stuff like that.
It's a good question. There must be something out there.
There should be.
Nothing comes to mind. I mean, I know there's, mouse, the things that'll change your cursor and everything, but I can't think of
Especially
anything.
like this keyboard shortcut thing that just pops it on the screen. And
yeah, there's definitely something. I've never used it. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I looked at ScreenFlow, but that's way too complicated for just doing.
Well,
that one
and ScreenFlow is
function.
for recording. It wouldn't.
Yeah, well, you're recording at the same time, then it would show you doing a live demo, and that's way too.
Yeah, no, ScreenFlow wouldn't be the way to go in this case, but I'm sure there is something. I think I've seen it, but I just haven't had the need for it, so I didn't look into what it was.
Yeah, we used to do live meetings several times a week. We still have an office and such. And
yeah,
we don't do that anymore. We still have the office and we still pay rent, but we haven't been there in 2 years.
Maybe one day. Soon.
One day. Well, Gary, thanks for hanging around and doing questions. I knew people would have a lot because they. You're our guru.
Could I ask one more question?
No.
Well, I'm going to. So you mentioned that you do presentations at a bunch of different user groups. Are there any user groups that you see that have a younger demographic than what you see here, or are all user groups kind of gray back?
No, it's about the age seems about the same. A delicately answered question.
Once a month, they have something called the User Group University, and there's about 25 user group leaders that come to that. And they had a whole hour session on this, attracted younger users. And the conclusion was, ain't gonna happen. This is the average age. That's the way it is. Get used to it.
Yeah.
The young people grow up with this stuff. Unlike us, they grow up with it. So they're saturated in it from, age 5 or 6, right?
And they also have lives.
They're not joiners. They don't go to meetings. They don't do that kind of stuff.
What happens is their DNA has been changed.
Yeah.
Through vaccines.
Thank you, Gary.
Sure. Yeah.
Gary, it was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, whenever you, I know you're prepping this as a beta for the other user groups. How often do you do like a new topic for a user? You probably use this for a while when everybody asks you, and then.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is, so I can't, I don't want to like fill my whole year with, user group meetings and stuff.
Absolutely.
So what I did is like, I did a lot of user group meetings, starting around like August, September, October. I had a, really busy schedule. So at some point during there, I said, no more for this year. So then I started scheduling for January, February, March, which is now the beginning of. So my feeling is I'll probably do the same thing. Is like probably as I go through towards the spring, at some point I'll say, all right, I'm now going to hold off, take a break from it for a while. And then of course, just, like every year, probably around, June, Apple will announce the new operating system. There'll be a whole bunch of new things to talk about. And then I'll probably, start up at the end of the summer again, but then my topic will probably be like, what's new in Mac OS? I don't know what's going to be called, Mac OS, whatever, whatever it's going to be, Alcatraz, whatever it's the next.
So maybe 2 topics a year, 2 rounds you would do.
So I'm thinking, but I'm not, it's not set in stone that I would do 2 rounds. Maybe I would do 3. I don't know. I'm going to see how this goes. I just know it definitely was tough before when I would have different topics. Sometimes I'd have 2 user group talks in a week and both would be on different topics.
No, that's too much work.
I know. I was like, what am I doing? I should probably come up with like,
all those people haven't seen the same thing. So, yeah.
But I always offer the option to user groups too, that if you're not interested in that topic, but you still want to have me on, I could just do Q&A. And there are actually some groups that's what they want to do.
Right.
They don't necessarily want a topic. They want somebody come on and do pure Q&A.
So
And
for
and
this,
I'm good with that.
every week, we usually use your videos, could put 3 of them, and then for an hour and talk and have a little discussion after each one. But then the second hour, we do this amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
So we kind of have Q&A, a lot of opportunity. So I would ask that maybe you think about putting us in the queue. Whenever you think you have a new thing, you could throw
Okay.
us in there. We're here, we're easy, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, you guys are actually a fantastic audience, because I mean, it's really easy to talk to you guys, I have to say. Like,
Yeah, we're receptive. Everybody
Well-
knows you. Everybody's used to seeing your stuff. We ask you questions about previous ones we've been watching.
the questions are really good ones. Every single one of them was a really good question. I mean, just like, oh yeah, and I've got a good answer.
We
Yeah, it was
got
perfect.
we have 300 members, but we only get like 50 of them that come, but they're real regulars. So these people
Sure.
that are in this meeting have probably been coming real regular for 2 years, 2 hours a week. So we're getting them up to speed.
Mhm.
These people that come, they're pretty hip on what's going on.
A little
what the other 250 people doing, I don't know.
A little history about our group, Gary. We started out in 1982 before the Mac was here. And we were called the Diablo Valley Apple Users Group. And in 1982. And in 1988, we changed the name from Diablo Valley Apple Users Group to Diablo Valley Mac Users Group. And we've been going ever since. So we're pretty well established. I think we're group number 2 in the Apple records. DVMUG was first and we were second. So we've been around a while, and we're certainly grateful to you, because through the pandemic, actually, you've kind of been the glue that has held us together.
Wow, that's great to hear. It's it's been great for me, during the pandemic too, to be making these videos and working on, I've done a lot of improvements over the last 2 years while this has been going on, because, I've been stuck at home. So I've been doing, improving the video. I have new camera, microphones, lighting, rearranged how, I do my editing and all that stuff. And it's been great. I've seen a lot of growth over the last 2 years of new people coming and all that. And
a last question for me is, how's Jack doing, and how old is he?
Jack's about, let's see, he's 7.5.
Yeah.
He's great. He doesn't like the pandemic as much because he doesn't know what it's about, but he does know I go for less walks to get lunch at outdoor, places. I would take him. There's restaurants around me. I live in downtown Denver, and there are places that I would normally be like, oh, time to take a break from work. I'd take him for a walk, and I'd go to a restaurant that allowed dogs or had a patio. And the pandemic, suddenly I stopped doing that. He's very upset at that, but no, he's doing great.
He looks like a good dog.
He's a great dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
And a great model and subject for making my videos and taking photos and all of that. So yeah,
we know that.
Is there a significant user group in there where you are?
Yes, there is. There's a Denver. There's actually a couple. There's one in Golden. There's one in South Denver, and there's one up in Fort Collins as well, and Boulder. Come to think of it, so yeah, there's definitely. I'm trying to remember the name. I get.
Boulder makes sense because that's the university town. So that's.
the biggest
was.
The biggest one. Oh, I'm clicking on email. Like I could actually look that up here on my demo account. The biggest one here is actually probably just similar in size and involvement to you guys. And
we're one of the few left in Northern California.
Yeah, macintech.org. You go to macintech.org, the South Denver Mac Users Group.
I haven't seen them in the user group university.
Yeah, and then there's other ones like the Denver Apple Pie Mac User Group. So I've spoken at one time or another, and those were some of the few groups I would actually speak to in person.
Yeah,
lucky them, yeah.
So, and also Colorado Springs, I think 3 times before the pandemic, I drove down to Colorado Springs and spoke to that user group too. So yeah, it's I think a lot of times, there are so many people that don't know about user groups at all. Matter of fact, I might be doing a video soon on how to find, your local Mac user group.
That would be great.
Because so many people have no idea,
I know.
and they sometimes they ask me questions at Mac Most, but they don't want to know this one specific thing. What they want to do is gain more skills. They're watching my videos to gain more skills. And I'm like, boy, you could really benefit by finding your local group and just being around others like you that also want to build your skills up and share, like, oh, I discovered how to do this. And, and now I'm into using iMovie, and now I'm doing, Keynote, and then, have that back and forth. So yeah, that's on my to-do list at some point here soon, is to do how to find your local Mac users group. Because and then there's people that think, oh, I'm sure, oh yeah, East Bay, I'm sure they've got a Mac users group. Oh, Chicago, I'm sure they've got a Mac users group. But I live in, Colorado Springs. There's no Mac users group here. I'm like, actually there is one. It's been going on for 30 years, and it's, it meets every month, and they're really friendly and great.
Well, one of the things they mentioned in the user group university is Naples group has gotten, they're promoting all over the world. They're not going to go back to meeting in person ever again, because they went all in on Zoom.
Yep.
And a lot of the user groups in the user group university, they said the same things. Like, okay, we used to get half a dozen to a dozen in person on Tuesday night every week at our office.
Yep.
Now every Tuesday afternoon, we get 35, 40, 50 people in Zoom. So we get more, and we recovered 10% of our expired members who'd moved out of the area because we sent them an email to 600 expired people. 25 of them came back because they can come from anywhere now.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not a local thing anymore.
I've spoken to Naples a couple times. They're basically,
That's where I got the idea.
They're a worldwide user group. Yeah.
They're really promoting it hard. They got some people who are really volunteering to go out there and getting the speakers, and
Janet has her hand up.
Thank you. I'd really like to know how the young people, yes, they were born when computers were normal, but how do they know the new stuff? They don't read manuals. I mean, how do they get it? How do they just know how to use new software, or what?
It's just, I don't know. Maybe, because they were using it when they were little. My daughter, she was using an iPad, in elementary school, starting at first grade. She had one, and they just, but the thing is, when they're young, if you're young and you're using a laptop or using an iPad or something like that, you're not trying to, create your report for work or, do your big video project. You're doing little things. You do your little Instagram post, right? Just, oh, I can make this funny video. You're doing your school report, which is just writing a bunch of words, and then you send it to the teacher. So it's like you're learning these little steps, and by the time they actually need to use computers in the real world, they've already acquired all these skills, but they weren't thrown right into it like us, where we were, suddenly Apple came and said, here's the Mac, learn how to use it. And we're like, oh, this is a whole new thing, and we have to learn it now. They had these small little steps when it wasn't that critical. When my daughter first started using computers, she didn't have like a report due, it was just something fun to play with. So she learned that. And by the time she did have a report for school due, she already had used the computer for a lot.
Right. As soon as you learn something, though, they change it.
Yeah, well, I think they're used to that, and
right, they adapt, they go with the flow. It's a whole different way of studying. And my daughter, I was her computer teacher. I ran the lab at the school where she went. And she graduated college and has a wonderful job without ever once having stepped foot in a library.
Yeah.
Well, I used to take her to no, seriously.
You're right. Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, no, it's they have all the information at their fingertips. It's incredible now.
The young people have no fear like we do. We fear that I'm going to do this and I'm going to break it and I'm never going to get it back. Or they're
Right.
like, press this button and that button.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the first time my daughter tweeted something inappropriate, I printed out every single tweet she ever twatted and gave it to her.
Yeah.
There was this huge controversy when San Francisco built a new main library across the street from the old library, and that had a lot less shelf space. So they got rid of a major part of their dead tree stock of books. And there was outrage about that. And now I think we don't miss them a bit because so much is online and digital. And that library is definitely a world-class library.
Right, here's my library right here.
Well, and access too. I mean, it's a great, being able to email her teacher. I mean, she's in college now, but email her teachers and message them. And I mean, when we went to school, right? If you had a question for the teacher, you had to wait till the next morning, till you were there in class. So just, it's great.
Should we stop recording?
No, we're still recording. Gary's still here.
Okay.
Yeah. Why? I guess it's.
I'm not
it's
trying to
almost
get
6
rid of
o'clock. It's almost 6 o'clock my time, so I'm gonna go get some dinner.
All right,
Thanks, Gary. That's
thank you
that's
so
really good.
much.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you, Gary.
we hope
Okay.
to see you again.
Bless
on the
you.
screen.
Thank you. I'll talk to you all later.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna
Go ahead and say
say
goodbye.
bye-bye to the YouTube people and we'll hang out and talk
Bye,
about food or
YouTube.
something.
Bye, YouTube.